Well, I hope you guys are coming with some energy today because I sure as heck got some. What's going on out there this morning? Anybody who's gonna match the energy? All right, Sue,
Morning.
what do you got?
Well, I put in a HUD bid yesterday and I just got an email. They accepted it.
Oh, usually you get an email that says your broker has not updated
Oh,
his HUD license.
uh, well, I didn't have
That's
my glasses on, but it said
no,
accepted.
no, we're probably fine, but that darn HUD license is like you got to do it in every state, and it's just a nightmare. Well, it's Lori's nightmare, but it is a nightmare to keep that thing up to date. So, congrats on getting yourself a HUD deal. That's awesome. Who else has
Um,
got something? What
okay.
else you got? Keep going, Sue. You're on a roll.
Well, no, I don't. That's the only exciting news, but I do have some questions about, the new forms. The whole thing with, um,
Let's hold the
okay.
questions. Let's see if anybody else has
Yep. Oh, hold on.
got some energy this morning. Who else is excited? Just this market, the opportunities right now. What do we got? How many days till the election for us to kill it here? Like, how many days? We got all of October, and what do we got? Like 40 something? Who's got the math on that? I don't know. I feel like the election period there, everything's going to kind of shut down. So we got a little bit of time here to make some hay, and hopefully you guys are taking advantage of this time with rates down. A little bit of time here before election. This is 39. Thank you, Martin. 40. I was off by a day. Yeah, I mean, this is time to make hay. Let's go, Jeff and Linda.
I would just like to say that I am so incredibly grateful that this whole storm system bypassed us because that was going to completely shut down our ability to do anything during this brief period before the election. And so, of course, it's just a total blessing and gift that we're all safe and well. And people, I think, the snowbirds aren't going to have to stay up north. They're going to carry on with their plans to come down. And so that's a huge blessing, and feeling very, very happy and grateful today.
Awesome. What a great share. And we are glad you guys are safe.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Who else? Biggie is almost over. Get that behind us. And let's go sell some houses for 39 days. Anybody taking action, sending out the text? We had a tactical Monday and Tuesday. Who's actually taking action on this stuff? Martin.
That's kind of all I did was this Monday and Tuesday was send out text and emails. So we'll see what happens. Had a couple people like I'm showing this weekend, but otherwise nothing.
Well, how many did you send?
I'd say at least 90.
Okay, and you got a couple. I mean, we're probably talking 5%, guys. Right? You do 100 of these. If you can get 5%, and then maybe half of that is going to actually transact. That's probably what you're looking at, right? Like, I think you should be excited about those numbers, Martin. We're not going to get 85 people out of 90 to respond and say, "Oh, this is perfect timing. I was just thinking about if rates dropped, I'd buy a house." Right? We're looking for a handful, and then of those handful, a couple serious. It's just a numbers game. Anything more than that, and I think that's part of what can be frustrating doing the business is we're expecting massive numbers in response to what we get. And really, if we got a 5% response rate and then half of those people transacted, we just generated a couple of deals. And then next month, what's the messaging that we're going to send out and get in front of our people to try and get the same type of a thing, right? And obviously, as you grow your databases and you get more people in there that you're constantly in contact with, now all of a sudden you're sending out 500 text messages. And, 5% of that is what? 10% is 50. There's 25 responses, and then half of those people transact. Right? So it's just a numbers game. You're not going to get huge response rates, but you've got to be taking activities. Do not miss these next 40 days. I don't know what the election's going to do. It could, bring us to a grinding halt, or I don't know, somehow it could catapult us. But what I do know is we got 39 days left before that where you should be able to do some business. before people are blinded by whatever or paralyzed by whatever happens. So do not miss these 39 days. Let's open it up for some questions, Sue.
Okay, so the form with the compensation, when I did the offer, it automatically calculated the commission. So I don't have to send that new form, do I?
Not
Nate?
sure I'm not sure what you're referring to. Anybody
So
want to?
I guess it's the form, I think
Is it your buyer's agreement
yeah.
or is this a commission statement?
No, this is the buyer's agreement.
Okay.
So the percentage is exactly the same as what was on the HUD. So I don't have to ask, but do I still have to send that form to the agent?
Your buyer's agreement never
No.
goes to the other side. What it's going to come down to is where's that compensation coming from? That's what needs to be outlined, Sue. So is it coming from your buyer? Is it coming from seller side? Is it potentially still a co-broke that's paying it out? That's what we need to know, where it's coming from to you.
All right.
That'll determine.
So when I filled out the excuse me, the offer, it automatically calculated it. And it, as I stated, the percentage is the same exact.
Yeah. So Sue, it sounds like when you submitted the offer through the HUD site, it assumed the percentage was being paid by the buyer. So you have a buyer's contract that's the same percentage. The forms that we have are when we're requesting payment from either the broker or the brokerage or the seller. So you shouldn't have to do anything with those forms. You would just have to make sure that in the purchase and sale, it states that the buyer is going to be paying the compensation and then that it reflects that way on the commission statement.
Okay.
Who else has got something? How about a share? Somebody learned something yesterday on a deal they're doing? Margareta.
Mario, so as we enter in the world of younger and younger buyers, apparently now we're dealing with cryptocurrency. And I had a question because he's like, I have proof of funds in crypto. I'm like, fantastic. And I'm like, how does that get regulated with the underwriting? Because crypto technically is digital, and I mean, in my mind, so I need somebody to educate me on this. Can that be used as proof of funds? And technically, I mean, I'm almost thinking it's like an IRA or stock that you trade in, and as long as it's within US, but the crypto is digital, could be anywhere in the world. So I guess I'm having some difficulty grasping onto this and saying, yeah, this is a great way to proof of funds. Anybody on this
Has
one?
anybody done proof of funds with crypto?
I think crypto's kind of like a stock. I mean, I would say crypto's a little bit more volatile, but I mean, there's stocks that are volatile as well. So I would say that's acceptable. I mean, he can transfer, those funds from crypto to regular bank account in, a matter of hours. So
I'm not so concerned about transferring it because that is possible. I get that. But I've had a deal when you transfer money. So I guess I'm concerned more of where its location is. And being a digital, technically it's worldwide. So like, when and I had a deal fall apart because I had a person having funds transfer from abroad and literally a week before closing, and she couldn't use that because it had to simmer for 2 weeks in US account. So I'm wondering, how does crypto being considered in this case?
It's a great question. I don't know if it's going to have to season. That's the term we're looking for there, is season for some amount of time. Jeff and Linda,
Yeah.
you guys were first with your hand.
Yeah, I would recommend, Margareta, that you speak to the lender and ask the lender, what their stance is about the crypto and this kind of proof of funds, and get reach out to them and see what their take is on it.
Definitely, that was going to be my step. But like, I just was curious if anybody had to deal with that.
Sure.
And and obviously, and I'm not even so much concerned about the lender. I'm more concerned with the underwriter, how they were going to consider it. But
Yeah.
it's something we're probably going to start seeing more and more. So just throwing it out there, guys.
Yeah, good point.
Frankie, what'd you have?
Well, I don't know a ton on the subject, but like my crypto is all in my crypto wallets. So you can go back and see just like a regular, like an online banking type thing. So if you buy crypto, you can see like when you bought it, how long you've had it. It sits in a wallet. It's stored on the blockchain. So like, I don't know what you mean by worldwide. Your crypto's on like the blockchain or whatever, but it's in your wallet. You can always see it. So if you buy like, I don't know, if you buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin today, it shows it in your wallet. So you have like $1,000, and if Bitcoin goes up or down, you can see a timeline of when it goes up and down. So you know how long you've had it. So I don't know if that would count towards being in a bank account and simmering for 2 or 3 months or whatever. But I mean, if I bought Bitcoin last year, you can see that I've had it in this account basically for a year. So maybe that would help out in the transaction process. I don't know. But
Yeah,
you can
the
definitely see
only
it.
concern is, because it's still technically, we don't know the ownership of that company who holds it. So I don't know how that would be perceived by, and I think, do you guys pay tax on crypto? Or is there some sort of income tax that gets applied?
Not yet.
Gotcha. So
Didn't
I
Biden
wonder
like
how.
propose a thing a few years back, like if you transact so much back and forth, you got to pay something on it. But if you're trading Bitcoin anyway, yeah, you got to pay on it that way. Like you pay per transaction, but like you don't pay tax on it. Like right now, no.
Yeah, so it comes to the whole idea behind crypto, from what I understand, is that like, it's digital, you can use it anywhere for anything in the world. So that makes it very appealing to some degree for certain investments. But America's trying as a government, making sure there's no tax evasion and all that. So I wonder how for loan purposes that is being considered. That's my concern.
I don't know, but if you have a client that's crypto, they can always change it too into USDC, like US dollar coin, like pretty quickly. You can turn it into that
Okay.
and still have it.
Once liquidated,
USDC.
like into your accounts, oftentimes there's tax implications then, because I know when you're like filing taxes, they ask you, right? Did you sell any cryptocurrency in the past year? So they are looking for that somewhere.
Thank you. I'll definitely look at
Margareta,
it.
we're expecting. Yeah, you got to do the deep dive with the lender today, and then report back on Monday, please.
Yeah, definitely. This kind of blew me out of the water. I'm like, crypto. That's where we're at, huh? Kind of. The next, the Jet. What is it? The Jet Simpson. What's that cartoon? The Jetsons are coming our way.
Who else has got something? That was a good share, Margareta. Interesting topic. We had something weird happen on a transaction yesterday to throw out there. I'll throw one out that I heard about, which is, I don't know if we've talked about it, so I'm going to go pretty brief on the call, but a buyer wants to put an offer in on 2 different properties at the same time. Unfortunately, this is not a good idea. We need to figure out which one is the priority, and then get a short timeline on that. So if I've got a buyer that wants to buy property A and property B, one of them they've got to have a preference for. So let's say it's property A. We're going to go to the listing agent on A. Hey, look, my client really likes it, but I need an answer by tonight at 5 o'clock on this, or else they're going to go to property B. And then you're telling property B, hey, I'm probably going to have an offer for you. We're just waiting to hear back on another property. I don't know if they're going to get it, but if you could just please wait until 6 o'clock tonight, I'll know whether I'm going to be able to get in the running. So I don't know if anybody has anything else to add. anybody's done something different, you should be able to figure out what is the preferred property, get a short timeline on it. If you can't get the short timeline, if property A says, sorry, we're holding, we're not making a decision until Sunday at I don't know, 6 o'clock, then now you got a decision to make. And property B says, hey, we're making a decision tonight, right? Then if the person says, well, if you want to get in on property B, you're not going to have a chance on property A, right? Property A is not making a decision till Sunday. Property B is making their final decision tonight. So if you want to go on B, we've got to get our offer in. Questions on that? Okay. I'm just going to do a little public service announcement. My wife shared something with me, and I don't typically share this stuff on the morning call, but this one was interesting. It was some social media post, but if you are ever lost while hiking, you get stranded with a broken down car, etc., and you notice your mobile phone is either low on battery or has no signal, a tip that very well may save your life is you change your voicemail on your phone to a message that gives your approximate location, the time, date, your situation. Hey, I'm lost, I'm out of gas, my car's broken down, or whatever. With any special instructions, such as you're staying with the car or you're walking towards a town or whatever the case might be. Because even if your mobile phone dies or stops working, the voicemail still works. So anyone calling your phone looking for you would hear that message and know where to find you or where to send help. So I thought that was interesting. I had never heard that. And yeah, you never know when you might be able to save your life or somebody else's. So pass that message along and be kind. What else? Jen.
So I took a self-defense class through GAR yesterday, and everyone was sharing different tips of what they do through their brokerage. And one of the things that one of the agents had mentioned was if they feel uncomfortable in a situation, their brokerage has a message they all know, and they can call someone within the brokerage and say, I just need the red folder for 123 Main Street. So you give the address you're at, and the red folder means you're in trouble. And so then all the agents know, so whoever you end up calling knows, like, oh, we have to go help, so-and-so at this address, or call 911. There were a lot of good tips though.
Yeah, interesting. I will I'll put that on our leadership agenda to take a look at. Thanks for sharing that, Jen. Anything else that is just a quick, easy share, or?
No, the rest of it was more like self-defense, how to maneuver out of a situation and obviously avoid situations. They stressed using forewarn. A lot of agents didn't realize though, on forewarn, you don't have to just check the phone number. You can I was saying you could change it to just look up their name. And a lot of them didn't realize that.
That's in the search functionality, Jen?
Yeah, it's right below
Yeah.
the phone number. You just click on change to name search and put their name in, and it still pops up.
Who else has something? Go ahead, Margareta.
Yes, I think I told you guys I went yesterday to Boston for a GBAR. They called it whatever roadshow. But they had like different speakers, and one speaker was talking about negotiations, and something he said that I thought it was a really great idea. I want to share it with everybody here. He talked about, like, especially when we have, it's actually good for any market, but when you have more competitive markets, when you had that to make an offer quickly, he talked about having had like a like a drill with your buyers. This more applies to buyers, but it can also apply to sellers, really. But with buyers, have a drill that they're not forced to making an offer like literally when the offer is due in half an hour. So like say you have a property, you're going to give them as an example, they're kind of, whatever it is that they're kind of looking for, and ask them like as a drill, how would we fill this offer? What are you willing to, let go of, or what are you comfortable with, and let's fill this out. So it really, I was thinking about it, it's a great idea because a lot of times we're stressed like the last minute to do something and we know that and we understand the pressure and the significance, but our people don't. So having had that little drill before it's actually in the making, it's kind of like a preparation thing. I thought it was a great tool to do, and especially now when we have to upgrade ourselves and sells ourselves maybe a little bit harder and then more explicit. You can say, hey, I will prep you for this offer making where you will really understand it to great depth. And he also mentioned that about inspection reports, that really your buyer should not be looking at it. The very first inspection report ever is the one that they just purchased on the property they're looking at. They should have probably seen something before. I never heard that before. I thought it was great. So I just really think that it's a very good value added to us in our toolbox, but also to our people, our buyers and sellers.
It's a great share, Margaret. I really appreciate you bringing that one. I think buyer's consultation is definitely an opportunity to go ahead and walk through the offer, especially if you're doing one, in person, where it's not just quick in the driveway type of a thing, where you've got a real time, you're at the coffee shop, you've got them at the office, and you've got some time, right? Because I think it's not only preparing them to write an offer. I think a lot of people think, well, writing an offer is going to be like, a 3-hour process or something. And so they understand how quickly they can do it, one, but two, it's a professional way to go about things, right? Let me show you what the process looks like, because I'm sure their other agent didn't. Let me show you the negotiating tips that we like to use, right? For us, it's the clauses to consider, ways to strengthen your offer docs. So it's a great share and a great reminder. I think we coach that at buyers consultations. I haven't heard the repair request, but I would agree with you. I think that is a great idea, that a buyer probably shouldn't be seeing that. So, taking an old repair request, making sure all personal information has been removed. Or maybe we even, KB on the leadership side could just have one. We could get a good one. We could white everything out and just have that available for our agents to be able to take a buyer through what an inspection report is going to look like, and how there's going to be a lot of stuff on there. So great share, Margareta. Anybody have any questions on that? Is anybody doing this already? These are definitely ways where you can make a great first impression, and show that you're a professional right off the rip, because I promise you other agents aren't taking the time to do that stuff. All right, we got a few minutes left. Who else has got something? Lori.
I was just saying, I sent you it earlier today, Steve. The repair requests are due by the date that you're putting for the inspection date. So like when you write in your offer, inspections to be completed by September 26th, that also means your repair request needs to be submitted by that date. So I have a listing right now where the buyers were supposed to submit yesterday, and now my seller's like super anxious and she wants to terminate because it just set the tone really bad. And I talked to the buyer's agent. She said she was going to submit the request, told me about what she was going to ask for. I haven't talked to my seller about it yet because I don't have it in my hands yet. Who knows after they talk what they're actually going to request. I don't want to get her stressed out for nothing over something if they don't request XYZ. So now my seller is just like, I'm done. I don't want to wait around anymore. This is ridiculous. I talked to the buyer's agent this morning and she claims that she doesn't look at her phone after 8 p.m. and that the buyer was working. And I'm just like, okay, so you knew that this had to be submitted by yesterday. Everybody has a job, people work. I like it's past due now. So my seller does have the right to terminate, right? Like I'm trying to keep it
Yeah.
together,
Well,
but
I guess a couple of things. They could. There really isn't a way for the seller to terminate, right? It's just that the buyer is not going to be able to terminate for repairs. So if the buyer still wants to move forward and not ask for those repairs, but they've lost that opportunity to ask for those repairs, basically. If they try
right.
and back out now your seller would be able to retain that deposit.
Right. So
Yep.
basically, even if they do submit the repairs today, my seller has every right to say, sorry, you're past the deadline, we're not doing it. And then the buyer can say, okay, never mind, I don't want to do this then because I need XYZ fixed. And then we can say, well, you're not getting your deposit back because you missed your deadline.
You got it. Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
I just don't, people seem to just not give a shit about dates. It's really ridiculous. Like, even if she couldn't get the buyer to sign an extension, even an email to both attorneys stressing that she couldn't get a hold of something, anything would have been better than nothing,
Yeah. And that's why we always stress on this stuff. You got to do it the day before your deadlines, whether you're trying to extend a mortgage commitment, you're trying to do your repair request, do it the day before, because I couldn't get a hold of my client is not going to fly. Right. So just do everything the day before those deadline dates. Lauren.
Just wanted to state the fact that if the buyers do want to terminate, our contract in Massachusetts, if that's where this one is, Lori, does state that they have until 5 p.m. the day after to terminate. So we'd have to give them that opportunity and they would still be due back their deposit if they terminated contract by 5 p.m. today. Everything Steve said is correct. And then I just wanted to emphasize, you guys did kind of touch on it, that you can extend this date, right? Like we didn't have time to talk about what repairs we are requesting. We could have put in a 1 or 2 day extension on this just to give us time to put that together. You're on that side that's making this request.
It does bring up an interesting scenario where if, and I don't know, like if talking to your seller, right, and they are getting antsy and it's 1 day before the repair request deadline, right, you could have a conversation with your seller and say, hey, look, they still haven't submitted anything. Some agents just play it completely quiet. Like, I'm not going to poke the bear and ask the buyer's agent if they're going to be asking for repair requests. And if they miss their date, they miss their date. And now we're going to try and retain their deposit. I will tell you, trying to retain deposits is not the easiest thing to do in the world. There always seems to be a struggle to just get a buyer to release. I didn't know. They're taking, I don't even know what the excuses might be. So the other option that you have is, hey, Mr. Seller, do you want me to just reach out to the buyer's agent, remind them that their deadline is tomorrow? Hey, I didn't want you to miss this. We're working together in good faith here. Do you want to submit anything? You could take that approach. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on, which way you like to do it. Lauren, your hand is still up, or did you have some thoughts?
It was just still up.
Well, put it down then, lady.
I did, sorry.
Is anybody on the listing side? What are your thoughts? You're in this position. You know the inspection deadline is today. You haven't heard from the buyer's agent. Are you reaching out? What are you doing, Lauren?
Okay, it's back up now. My thought is kind of, I'm representing the seller. Is it the best interest of the seller to go after them, after the buyer's agent, to see if they're sending it over for something that would, in reality, probably cost my clients money, or just kind of stay quiet because that's what might be in the best interest and, save them potentially some money. You might get mad buyers because their agent didn't make it clear to them that they actually had to have this by this date. They didn't have that conversation. And so I think that's kind of maybe one of the excuses, Steve was there talking about. They weren't informed that this had to be done. They could, kind of push that, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's the scenario that you'd be trying to protect against is my agent wasn't doing their job. I didn't know. We still want to back out. We were within 20, we learned about it 24 hours later. I mean, come on, you're not retaining our deposit, who knows? But I can promise you in those scenarios, it's not just going to be they're going to sign release and the seller's going to keep that $5,000 or 10 grand or whatever the case might be. It's going to be a battle. Anybody else have any thoughts when you're in that scenario? I'm just trying to think back. I'm not sure I can think of any scenarios where my guess is my only scenarios where I've called that buyer's agent is the buyer's agent I've done deals with in the past. We've got a good relationship and I know they get stuff closed. That's probably, where I would make that phone call. But you've got to talk to your seller first. Make sure your seller is okay with it. Any other thoughts on this?
I mean, I'm kind of with you and Lauren on this one because technically speaking, it is the buyer's agent responsibility to get everything done on time, and I would be representing my seller. So if there is anything that could come up, perhaps the buyers and the buyer's agent are thinking, well, no, we're probably not going to request anything. And then here I would call them and say, hey, do you have anything? And then what if that sparks something that never would have happened in the first place? So realistically, I mean, if we're protecting our seller's interest, we're there to wait until we receive something. I mean, on the other hand, yeah, if there's a buyer's agent who I can vouch for, or if I've done business with, I could call them and just say, hey, you guys have a deadline coming up. Are we expecting anything, or are we clear to move forward with it? But 8 times out of 10, I probably wouldn't make that call.
Yeah. And I think why it typically happens that way is typically you're having a conversation with the buyer's agent right after the inspections. It's not usually dead silence, right? It's inspections happen. There's still 3 or 4 days before the inspection period. Buyer's agent and sellers and listing agent are having a conversation right after inspections. How'd they go? Do you think your buyers are going to be requesting anything? So you typically, I feel like, have something maybe, and so, okay, they were thinking about doing something. Now the deadline's coming up. If it's an agent I don't have a previous relationship with, I don't think I'm saying anything. But if I did, I might be given a call. Just like, hey, we talked the other day. We hadn't received anything. It might be a courtesy thing if my seller's okay with it. So, Lori.
So if, like today, she hasn't sent over the request yet with the deadline yesterday. So I wait till 5 o'clock to see if they terminate. If they don't terminate, what do we do? Because my seller is ready to move on. She's already called the attorney. She's like, I want to terminate this right now. So I'm like, how do I explain to her, like, we can't terminate, like, we have to wait for them to terminate. We have to wait for them to submit. Like, what? Like, I'm just kind of like, oh my God.
Yeah, I guess why is the seller so adamant about terminating? Like, why doesn't she want to move
wants
forward
this
with this
done, and she is insulted that they didn't follow through with the date it was supposed to be submitted. So she's like just done with it. So she just wants
Okay.
to move on. I mean, it's a great house in Agawam that we still have showing requests, people asking to show it. So it's like we have action.
Yep.
She just wants this sold yesterday and she's done. She's just done right now. Her patience is gone. So they didn't submit, and she's literally, while we've been on the call, called the attorney 4 times to terminate. I'm going to calm her down.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out how to explain to her that she can't terminate. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah. They've lost their right to ask for a repair request, but they can still move forward and not, which sounds like, I'm assuming she's got a good offer on the table. And if they don't ask for a repair request, that's great. Yeah, we'll move forward, but we're not doing anything.
So maybe I'm thinking I should call the buyer's agent and just say, look, you missed the deadline. My seller's flipped out, and you can submit, but it's very likely she's not going to fix anything. So if you think that that's going to be a deal breaker for your buyer, we may as well just terminate this now, so to speak, because once she submits the request, now I know the problems. You know what I mean? And then now I have to disclose
Yeah,
it.
the only thing I don't think that's a good idea, because I think you'd want to wait till after, because now if she terminates, she's going to get her deposit back, right? She has the right to terminate by 5 and then they get their deposit back. I think I'd be waiting till after, and then at least you have the right to that deposit. I'm not saying she's going to keep it all, but so I don't know that I would say anything to that buyer's agent prior to that 5 p.m. deadline, because it sounds like this agent doesn't know what they're doing. Right. So I think you got to wait.
So
Right.
how do I explain to her that she can't terminate?
I think
That's what
I would
I'm trying
just,
to.
there's nothing in the contract that says that she can. I don't know. Jeff and Linda, I see your hand up. Maybe I'm missing something.
Well, I have a question, because this is a different way of doing business, and so if I understand correctly, the buyers have until 5 o'clock today to terminate the contract. Is that accurate?
Yeah, the way the contract reads is you have until this date, so whatever, this 9/27
Okay.
to submit, or in this case, it was 9/26 to submit your repair request, and then there's a 24-hour period after that to ask for termination. So that would be 5 o'clock today.
Well,
Yep.
I don't know that. I think I would, Lori, explain to your seller that just because they didn't submit repair requests, that doesn't necessarily mean that they intend to terminate the contract.
I talked to them today, the buyer's agent. I spoke with her through text because I texted her, pretty late last night, hoping maybe, she was just waiting for a signature. She reached back out to me today. Because I said, if the buyer wants to terminate, let me know right away so we can all move on. And she said, no, the buyer doesn't want to terminate. I stressed to him that he's got to sign the repair request and that, we need to get this done. So I let my seller know that, but she's just irritated and fed up and just wants to move on. So
Right. Well, you need to find a way to rephrase it, and maybe you could just say, "Hey, it's very possible that the buyer doesn't have an excellent agent, and they drop the ball, and so at the end of the day, your goal is to sell this home. We have an excellent buyer who gave a good faith, excellent offer, and I know that you're very nervous and concerned, but we need to give this buyer the benefit of the doubt. And that's all assuming, Lori, that this has been a very good transaction thus far. You know what I mean? You can get a sense of from the beginning if it's a bumpy one, or if it's a buyer who's very, very serious. And so if it has thus far been a very nice transaction, you want to just say, hey, it's very possible that the buyer is not aware of these deadlines, that's why they hire an agent. And if the agent has dropped the ball, you don't want to hold that against the buyer when we're talking about just a matter of hours. And you can let her know that you spoke with the agent, and that the buyer has every intention of moving forward with this purchase. So just hang in there, give them a few more hours in good faith. It's very, very probable that the buyer's not aware of these deadlines and the process. And if somebody hasn't been told, they don't know what they don't know. Right. And so and say, again, I spoke with the agent, and they most certainly want to move forward with this sale. And, and again, if we terminate now, we're starting back at square one, where we're going to have to try to find another excellent buyer. We have a good bird in hand. Let's play this out and just try to stay calm and not be offended, and look at the big picture of the goal of what we're trying to accomplish. Perhaps that would help.
Yeah, I think that's.
I wish. It sounds so great, Linda. I wish, but I feel like
Doesn't it,
she's just
doesn't it
really.
sound? Don't we all wish we could just talk like Linda?
I know it sounds great. I agree with you, and I've tried to keep her calm the whole time, but she knows the date was yesterday, and she's just donezo. So I'm trying to let her cool off. I told her I'd call her around 9:15, and then she's already blown up the attorney, flipping out. So yeah, I gotta just try to reel this in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's tough. That's very tough. Yeah, you just got to try to get her to focus on the big picture and the goal, how far along you are in the process, and really try to impress, putting doubt on the possibility that you have a buyer who who doesn't have the proper information, and that they clearly want to buy this home, and you clearly want to sell the home, and maybe just if they could give the buyer the benefit of the doubt, and just that they're not aware of this. I don't know what else to offer.
Margaretta, you've been patiently waiting. Did you have a suggestion? You're muted, Margaretta.
Yes, I do. It may be not it's very practical. Let's just put it that way. Do what Linda says. And if that doesn't work, you ghost them until 5 p.m. because you had an emergency. And then you get back to them, and depends on the situation, you buy time. And then when you say, oh, okay, well, they didn't submit request, now we can proceed. You are doing this in best interest of your seller. I know it's a little bit on the edge, but it might work.
Yeah.
I mean,
Alex,
I talked to this lady and this morning, and she told me she stressed to the buyer he had to sign this yesterday, never heard back. So is the buyer getting cold feet? I don't know. You know what I mean? So if they don't terminate by 5 p.m., like, can we terminate at that point?
No, if they don't terminate by 5, then they have the option to move forward and continue to buy the house or back out and lose their deposit. But there's no way for the seller to cancel the deal, because the period was just a contingency period. Like, the buyer doesn't have to act on that period.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Alex, you had your
did-
hand up. I don't know if
yeah.
you had any other advice here.
No, not advice or anything. It's just it's strange because, like, in Florida here, deadline is a deadline. So if we were supposed to submit a repair request or a cancellation by the 26th, that would mean that unless we receive a cancellation or a repair request at least by 11:58 or 11:59 p.m.
Yeah.
by the 26th, everything either moves forward or this buyer loses their deposit. I guess I just never heard of a deadline. If they miss the deadline, they still have up until the next day to cancel.
This is part of this new contract. I don't know why they did it this way. I don't know if anybody knows why they did it this way, but yeah, the old contract was just a date, like you're saying, and I think this is the only contract that I'm aware of that has this extra day.
Yeah, Florida still deadline is deadline here. So
yeah. Somebody else, Meg, you had your hand up.
I was just going to suggest, like in talking to Lori, the seller has to understand that even if this buyer, doesn't move forward, you're still going to have to go through this entire process all over again with the next buyer. So, just give this buyer this little bit of time to figure out if they're moving forward or not. And then, this 12 hours, 24 hours, whatever it is, again, you're going to have to then wait for a new buyer to potentially do inspections, and it's going to add, another 7 days onto it. So from my perspective, it's in the seller's best interest to, as long as the offer is, good and there's not another reason why she's nervous, to stick with the buyer that you have.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? Like, you can wait till the end of the day today at 5, or we're going to reset the clock for, even if we accept somebody else's offer, they're going to have a 10-day inspection period. So we're 11 days out from hearing from the next buyer.
But what do I say after 5 p.m.?
Well, the best case scenario is they're moving forward and there's nothing to worry about, Mr. Seller. Hey, or Mrs. Seller, they're moving forward. You know what? They missed their deadline, but they love the house and they're not asking for anything. Or, they're backing out and we're going to retain their deposit, or at least attempt to. So I feel like I don't see a downside to wait until 5 for her. Alex, we'll finish with you.
Okay, yeah, and I'm so sorry because I was answering a few of my clients really quick. Maybe somebody had already mentioned this, but you seem to have a lot of interest on the home. I mean, in the meantime, is it plausible to reach out to some of those people and say, hey, listen, we're kind of in a tricky situation here. We don't know where it's going to go, but do you guys want to possibly submit a backup offer on this home just in case things go south? Maybe at least this way you'll be runner-up next. I mean, Megan has a great point that it does extend the process if you're back with another buyer, but at the very least, it should kind of put some peace of mind to your seller that, hey, we might have an actual backup offer just in case this goes south, so there's really nothing to worry about. I don't know if anybody's already mentioned that.
No, nobody has. And this is actually a really good point because you really need to know what your leverage is, right? Just because you have a bunch of other activity doesn't mean you have, a bird in hand, like Linda said before, right? We could reach out to the 5 other agents that have interest and say, no, you know what, they're moving on, or yeah, they have interest, but you find out their offer would be 20 grand less, or so knowing what your leverage is, because to be honest, if this buyer comes back and says, hey, I know we missed a deadline, but we want X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z is going to cost you $3,000. That might not be that bad if the next best offer, let's say this offer is accepted at 300,000, and you find out you go to those other people and you don't have anybody willing to go over 290, right? So taking this one that's already through inspections and get you whatever, 297, $3,000 off your 300 is better than just going, no, you missed your deadline. We're out. We don't want to do any of these repairs. And now you go back to the other people and find out you're taking 290, plus they still got to do inspections. They can come back and ask for those things. And now you're back at 295 or excuse me, 290 less of 285 or something. Right. So it's a really good point, Alex, to understand your leverage of where are those backup offers at? And do I even have a good one?
Yeah, and that's such a solid point because you never know if they're going to come back with another backup offers less than what you have.
This is where you need to be, educate your seller to go, yeah, we can tell them to go pound sand because they missed their deadline, but now they're going to back out. They're going to fight over their deposit. Maybe we get it, maybe we don't. But the reality is we lost the buyer that was willing to go the highest, and we could have kept them for $3,000 worth of repairs. Now we're going to sell it for 290, for 280, for 270. Who knows what the next best offer is? So, Linda.
Yeah, this is Jeff. I was just, I agree with what Alex was saying too, and knowing your leverage, like you were stating it. And to Steve's point, I was just going to say, you have to know, one, your relationship with that buyer's agent, how that's going to go. How are you feeling comfortable with that conversation? But also explaining to your owners the pros and cons of, maybe you're going to get a better offer, maybe you're going to get a worse offer. But either way, you're going to start over. And what happens if you don't get an offer and then you still have to go through the inspection process? What happens if that inspection process goes the same way, if you go down the line? So now you've wasted some more time potentially on that, and knowing all your options and informing them so they can make an informed decision on how they want to proceed best. But, again, knowing your pros and cons is going to be very important.
Plus, and I think, Lori, that buys you your time for today, right? Hey, you know what? They've got until 5 according to the contract. What I'm going to do for you, I'm going to call all the other people that are interested. Let's see how much interest we really do have.
She just reached out to me and she said that this morning, I guess he had questions, and she's trying to reach him. So I think before he signs it, they still have to talk again. But I have a strong feeling that no matter what, my seller's still going to shoot this down hard. So what I'm going to do when we're done with this call is I am going to reach out to everybody and just say, hey, look, I don't know how this is going. If your client's still interested, be prepared to submit an offer or submit a backup offer for me, because can I continue to show it?
Not if you don't have
requests.
Yeah, not if you didn't.
Deposit.
Yeah, but you would have had to put it in that continue to show status. I forget what that thing's called, but
I don't think that's in Mass, only Connecticut. I don't think you can do continue to show in Connecticut. You can do offer accepted, continue to show, and then after inspections it goes just contingent and then under contract. But in Mass, that's not an option for a
in the MLS. They don't have that.
I don't think so. I'll look, but I don't think I've ever seen it in Mass.
I thought you could continue. I thought there was a status where you could continue to show and one where you can't. So if you don't, does somebody know, Lauren?
I was going to say, I think in Massachusetts, if your seller clients want you to continue to show the property, you can. I think the only one we have is the option for the kick out clause if they have a home sale contingency, and that's to be able to give you the opportunity to back out of your current contract. So you can show it to these other people, but you can't terminate the current contract that you have to go with somebody else.
And I'm thinking if, she really wants out of this and she shoots down whatever repair requests, I don't think it's going to sit well with this buyer, because clearly it seems like this might be his first rodeo, the way he's pausing, or he's nervous. So I bet you it's going to probably be something hefty or like nitpicky. You know what I'm saying? So maybe we can just terminate based on we're not going to fix anything, and then he won't have it, and then we're done. You know, that's if she really wants out.
Well, it's going to be interesting drama Monday. Margareta coming back to us with crypto answers, and Lori coming back to us with what happened with this crazy deal. So go crush your weekend, guys. Great stuff. This was probably about as long as we've ever gone over, and we still had a ton of engagement. Appreciate you guys all staying and engaging, and hope you have awesome weekends, and we'll talk to you again on Monday. Take care.
Have a
Thank
good one.
you. Bye.
Have a great one, guys.